Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, to the pizza shop on the corner of fantasy and betting. As always, we got Evan in the front of the house. I'm running the back of the house. That's where I like to be, back there with the cooks, creating havoc. But we got a very special episode this week because it's a very special week. So for that, we brought in the best of the best of the best of the best, sir, and that is Bob Harris. Bob, how you doing, man?
Hey, Iggy. Hey, Evan. How's it going, guys?
Good, good. Glad to have you here. Bob, did you get a clean shave for the playoffs? Are you like ready to go? Is that what happened?
I'm totally not clean shaven. I've got like a 1 day growth there. I'll work on that tonight, though. I'm not like, this is not my most successful season in all the redraft leagues. So very disturbing year.
Hey, well, I know you and I both had a year where we didn't win a championship, and that hurts when you're in as many leagues as I'm in, and you're in. But hey, that's in the past. We're focusing on what's going right now, and that brings us to what we always like to start our show with, Bob, and then Evan. We're going to pass it off to you, and it is called the Dodo. A good pizza is all about winning, Evan, and winning is what gets you to the playoffs, my friend. And it starts with the dough, right? So how many leagues do you have in the playoffs? We're going to go to Evan, then we'll go Bob, and then we'll go me.
Yeah, so, and I'll say the camera's not picking up that 1 day growth, Bob, so you're looking nice and fresh from where we look, so you're all right. But so I have 12 teams total that I started the season with. And I have 8 of those are in the playoffs. So 8 of 12, 75%. I'll take it. One of the 4 that aren't, I actually finished in 3rd place, but the way the scoring works out, somebody with more points got in over me, which like everybody, I'm okay with that rule until it affects me directly, where now I want my win-loss record to trump that. But if I have more points, I, of course, want to be on the other end of it. So 8 of 12, I'll take it. Hopefully one of those 8 at least can find a way through to the end,
I think anybody would be happy with the 75% success rate. Bob, did you get to 75% success rate?
Oh, Lord, no. Nowhere even close. I don't even think I got a 5% success rate. So in like about 25 leagues this year, playoffs in 5, but I'm not counting like some of those leagues that I'm in are best ball. I know like in the flex league, I'm in 2nd place. So I don't think there are actual playoffs there. And there's like 3 other ones where I'm faring reasonably well. I got kicked out of all my eliminators, finally made it to this week. So that's something I always like to keep track of. So yes, this has not been my greatest year. I blame Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. When you're all in on somebody, that can happen like that. How'd you do in the Kings? Because I got stomped in my Kings. I got 160 points more scored on me than anybody else. I guess they thought I was you, and they were bringing everything at me. But how did you end up doing?
So I didn't do as great. I did held my own. Like, I'm not getting relegated. Did not do great. Had Christian McCaffrey in both. And so in the redraft, it didn't go well. In the auction, I fared reasonably well. But JJ Zacharyson, we were winning in, or one and done kind of thing for the last game last week. And so, man, he was on the struggle bus going into this game. And Jonathan Brooks ended up with -3 there. I think his other running back was scored him single digits. And he was like down to the seeds and stems at the other positions. And so he had Tim Patrick, who ends up scoring 22 points. But Marquez Valdez-Scantling had to start. He had a lousy game, but Jamar Chase did not. His one superstar did not. So I went into the final Monday night game with a pretty heavy lead, and needless to say, it was not heavy enough. He overtook me with that 45-point performance from Jamar Chase. So I'm out of the auction, which is the one, I want to say me and Curtis Patrick have won that the Jim Brown division auction like almost every year. What's been one of us. So and obviously more Curtis than me, but I usually fare really well on that. So it's a little bummer not to make the playoffs of that one. So some years it just doesn't play out for you.
Yeah, that's I can relate. Auction's so much fun. I can hear you guys auctioning away next door. Sometimes I hear some people's voices over there, usually the auctioneers. But yeah, man, it's my home league's auction league. Barely made it, squeaked by. Drew Davenport's a rookie this year. I've been giving him a lot of crap in that league. He made the playoffs, so there's some competition over there, and it's just something a little more fun about an auction league making it for me. Maybe because I've only played auction the last 3 years, so they're relatively new for me still, but I do enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, Drew is a monster in the auctions, man. So holding your own against Drew is pretty commendable.
Yeah, it's fantasy football 7 scoring, and he never plays with IDPs, so it was a new world for him. And I was giving him a lot of crap, but he still made the playoffs, so we'll see how he fares. I'm always kind of a little rough on rookies, just how it is out there. No, sorry, somebody's got to be that guy.
Bob, what is your favorite style of drafting, Bob? Do you have a preference in dynasty, redraft, auction, IDP?
I like all of it.
I know you like all of it, but
I like my favorite all types. Ideally, I play tons of best ball. I have many hundred best ball teams, and look forward to seeing and counting my money. But I don't even really look at those until after the season and see what happened. I took a glance, I want to say a couple weeks ago, and faring reasonably well in those. So going to be satisfying year in the best balls. But we start drafting in February, and by the time we hit August, you have quite a number of teams, and so it's always a nice little a postseason bonus when you can go count the shekels from those. So looking forward to that. But if I had to play one thing, man, it would be hard. In some very deep dynasty IDP, start 22, roster 50. One of them is a 16 team where there's two copies. It's a 32 team league. There's 2 16 team divisions when there's 2 copies of every player. So I love that. I like the dynasty, I suppose, the best. But honestly, I would play any. I like them all. Honestly, I'm sitting here trying to say, what's my favorite? I don't know if I have a favorite.
All right.
If you were doing redraft, if it was just a redraft, I think the standard people, right, play redraft. That's probably the most common of people that view. Are you an auction guy and do you like keepers, or do you like just a regular snake draft, no keepers?
No, just for redraft, no keepers. So if I'm playing dynasty, I want to go full on dynasty and build a team. So the keeping 2 or 3 doesn't really do it for me. Super flex is fun, but it doesn't seem you're really changing the value of quarterbacks. You're just creating a race. Although I think we're all catching on to that. So I suppose in redraft, the thing with auctions is I only do a couple every year because they take way too much time, and I don't have that time. Right. So the King's Classic is one where we're sitting there in a room and doing it anyway. And I usually do a second one that I didn't do this year. I do it with CBS or is it The Athletic or CBS? I think it's CBS. And so I couldn't do it this year because of time constraints. So my time changed, my workload changed a lot. And so a lot of people like to draft the night, and I'm working every night. So it was hard for me to get into some of the leagues I'm normally in.
Yeah, absolutely. They do take time, but they are fun. If you've never been in an auction league or a live draft, try to go get in one. They're a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and hop in our next segment because it's kind of a playoff game for the 2 teams tonight. Not literally, but almost figuratively. So let's go ahead and get into what we call a Stuff Crust Smash.
The pizza boy, look at it go. Make it dance.
Now, Bob, I know you're a food prepper. Are you still eating pizza by any chance?
I make a pretty mean pizza, right? I do. I'm not gonna lie. I make a pretty solid pizza.
So you're a pie maker like Evan and myself. That's great. We'll get into that here in a minute. But Thursday football tonight, I just want to know, because some people when we get into the playoffs, they start double guessing themselves. They start overthinking about games on Thursday night or Monday night. So who is your this is it? I'm stuffing this smash. I'm stuffing this crust and I'm smashing it. Who is your player that you are absolutely not worried about tonight?
That I'm absolutely not worried about tonight is Juwan Jennings. Just to me, when I look at the 49ers, I could play George Kittle. I think he's going to have some weeks where maybe he's blocking more, especially with Trent Williams out. But I think Juwan Jennings has been a reliable piece. What he's been on the field, huge target share, huge production, one of the biggest games all year for a wide receiver, not named Jamar Chase or Puka Nacua. I just think he's a locked-in play. Like, I think he's gotten a 27% target share minimum every week since he's been back from the injury break he had. And he's just dominated that workload. I feel super comfortable with him pretty much every week.
Juwan Jennings, I do love it. I drafted him so much in last year's best balls, not as much this year. So we'll see how that works out. Evan, who is your one player that you are not worried about tonight for fantasy? Absolutely must start.
Okay, well, my player was going to be Juwan Jennings, but I had a feeling that Bob was going to go that route. Yeah, he's just been so good since he's been back, minus the weather and the game where Green Bay was over before it started, right? So, of course, Puka, those guys. So I'm going to go with Brock Purdy because nobody's sitting, Puka, nobody's sitting Cooper Kupp. But Brock Purdy, we don't really know the running back situation. And even if we do, it's not as good, at least on paper, as we thought it's going to be if it's going to be more Patrick Taylor. The Rams look like they can continue to score points. But they also, as they can't stop Juwan Jennings or George Kittle, that means they really can't stop Brock Purdy, right? I mean, the Rams have given up plenty of points to the quarterback position. You look at schedule adjusted points above expectation. I think they've given up the 6th or 7th most in the league. So when Purdy's out there and Purdy's healthy, he can sling the rock. And I think he might be a guy where you have another quarterback where it's like, do I go Purdy? Do I go here, right? Do I go Purdy? Do I go Darnold? Do I go Purdy? Do I go Baker? And I think you can confidently start Brock Purdy tonight in those situations.
Man, that's a great call because I do have him in a league, and I am playing him over Russell Wilson this week. So I do feel good to hear that reassurance. I was going to go Kyren Williams. That kind of feels a little too easy, though. So maybe I'll take a look at Matthew Stafford because I am running him in the one and done league and Gary Davenport's Oasis league. So I don't think that the Rams, looking at it from a defensive perspective, I don't think the Rams are going to be able to stop San Francisco. So I think it's going to put pressure on Matthew Stafford, and they're going to use Kyren Williams early. And I think they're going to try to run some play action, try to get some deeper routes. Matthew Stafford doesn't have a problem hanging around in the pocket, taking a hit to deliver a strike if it's 15, 20 yards downfield. So I think Matthew Stafford's going to be a really must start, particularly in 6-point touchdown leagues for quarterbacks, because he's not going to run for very much, if any, but he might get 3 or 4 touchdown passes tonight. And the Rams could still lose that game if they do that. So I think the play script, regardless if it's offensive or negative play script in the second half, I think it favors Matthew Stafford really well. And, I'm starting to come around on McVay. It took me a long time to really accept him that he's an okay coach, but he is a pretty good game planner. And the Rams, I forgot I had that stat before we loaded, but their point differential in the second half is actually pretty good. So we'll see how it plays out for this NFC West. Somebody's got to win it. I think Seattle might win it. But these two teams, the winner of them is going to set themselves up for a much better position than others will. Any other little comments about tonight before we take a look at a word from our sponsor, from either one of y'all?
Yeah. I'll just say Isaac Rendo, sounds like he is going to give it a go. I think, loved him last week, was playing the heck out of him, thought he delivered, on all our expectations. Everything I expected would be he was, and then some. Then he gets the foot injury. So going into tonight, he's listed as questionable. I'm not sure I have, that level of trust. Well, and also there's not 6 teams on bye, and I'm hoping I have all my regular options available, and maybe I could swerve around and use a different lane to get that production. And look, I hope he has a great game, and I hope it's fantastic and his foot holds up well. I would hate to have to bank on that with a guy going in as questionable if he plays. And if he doesn't play, I think the same thing applies to Patrick Taylor Jr. If I didn't have to, I don't want to. I'm not even entirely sure Kyle Shanahan would want to. It's just that doesn't seem like his kind of guy. I think Israel Abanikanda is a closer fit or a better fit for the offense, or at least a closer, reasonable facsimile of the kind of, big, fast guy he wants running downhill. So I would probably be avoiding that backfield tonight if I could, if at all possible, right? Like, I get it. Attrition is the thing beyond the bye week, so not everyone does. And I wish you all the best of luck if that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, somebody out there probably might have Breece Hall and the San Francisco running back situation, or Kenneth Walker or Raheem Mostert. I mean, there's kind of possibilities. So you got to always make the best move that's for you. But I agree with Bob here. Try to avoid that. Maybe San Francisco has to play from behind, and neither one of those running backs are really effective. So, it's always a gamble, but that's why we're talking about our Stuff Crush Smash here. Guys that we feel confident about, we're not worrying about, and we're playing them tonight while we look forward to Sunday. All right, let's take a word from our sponsors, and then we'll come back with the Sauce's Boss.
Find your win tuition and elevate your sports betting with Better Takes. Better Takes examines your betting history to uncover hidden areas that cause bankroll leaks. Uncover patterns and biases so you can break the cycle of mistakes, avoid weaknesses, and play into your strengths. Our advanced stats offer unparalleled granularity, helping you immediately spot problem areas that could be affecting your success. Use the Better Takes Edge score to gauge your expertise for each potential bet, providing clarity and confidence in your decisions. Take control of your betting journey. Download Better Takes from the Apple App Store or Google Play today and start understanding your biases for free. Before placing bets, check with Better Takes, a smarter, more informed approach to sports betting.
If you guys get a chance, if you're a bettor out there, make sure you go take advantage of Better Takes. You just input your history from the sports books that you've placed, and it gives you the percentages on what you've placed on straight bets, money lines, spreads, and totals. So it's data, man. If you're in betting or if you're in fantasy and you have a tool that's like being a carpenter and not using a hammer and just using a rock to try to nail in a nail, it doesn't make sense. All right, use what's available to you. All right, we're gonna go right into something with Sauce's Boss. Usually it's a plus odd prop bet, but tonight we're looking at something that there was a lot of questions in last night.
Cold pizza Tuesday.
Remind everybody, Thursday night, you can stick right here on our YouTube or over on Evan's X or my X as well. We do have the Thursday check down with a fellow Hall of Famer, Greg Kellogg. Bob Harris, of course, the Hall of Famer with us right now. And Tip Major as well. They do have a question and answer. Then they hop right into the Thursday check down, Pros versus Joes, where Evan's son will be a part of the program tonight, who's SoCal Junior over in the playoffs in a couple leagues I'm in. So I'm glad to hear his perspective on it. And then we do roll that right into the first half watch-along party, talking about Kawasaki's disease, and really just focused on this awesome start to Week 15 fantasy football playoffs. So with that in mind, Bob, I was, of course, listening last night to the show. If you don't know, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, Sirius XM, channel 87. Mike and Bob over there at the Football Diehards. And Wednesday night's all about the audience, Bob. You'll really give people a chance there. And if you don't see my question rolling by, if you got a Week 15 question, put it in the comments. We'll try to get to it right before we close out the show. But you know what, Bob? There was a lot of questions about defense. Don't worry, Mike. We're not going to talk about kickers either. There was a lot of questions about defense and special teams, honestly. And then you guys said you're always looking at the quarterback matchup. But for those, 10-team leagues, 12-team leagues that a lot of people stream their defense, Bob, who is your favorite defense this week? Give us a little quick why. Then we'll head over to Evan, and I'll give an answer to.
Yeah, I think this week I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. I put this out on Sirius as well. I think most people probably aren't playing them. They're very generous to the receivers, the opposing receivers, and maybe Malik Neighbors has a great week, or maybe not. Always attacking quarterback situations, right? So that makes the Commanders a viable play to me as well, going up against the Saints. If I thought Desmond Ridder was playing, I might wait around for the Falcons, but I still prefer Baltimore this week, going up against a Giants team. This is just trying to find new and unusual ways to lose this week. And if it's something involving Baltimore's defense, I won't be in the least bit surprised.
The quest for Sanders is on over there in New York. No doubt about it. Or Hunter, maybe. Evan, who is your streaming defense for this week? And just the real quick why.
Yeah, I obviously like the Ravens as well. If you were able to get them, and just kind of a tip on that, if you were in a position last week to be able to snag them on a bye, they were available in a lot of leagues because of that. And I was fortunate enough to get that, right? I went out and grabbed them real quick. So just kind of a thing, right, to look for the week ahead of the playoffs, if you can. I get it. A lot of times it's win now and you don't have that capability. But anytime with that late bye, that was kind of one of the advantages there. But if we're not going the Ravens, I think, Bob mentioned the Commanders, and they're probably pretty widely available. Outside of those two, I still like the Cardinals. I know last week they disappointed, but because of that, you may have had some people say, okay, maybe I don't want to hold this defense for the playoffs. And they have a couple good matchups coming up. I know that Carolina's looked a lot better, who they have the following week, but overall, this defense has played very good football, especially the last 6 weeks. other than last week. And so you have New England. You still have the rookie quarterback. I just think that Arizona probably comes out this week, and they need to make a statement, man. They struggled last week. They're still in the hunt. So if I'm looking outside of those teams, like I still think Arizona is a very viable option. I'll mention this. The Cincinnati, they've got great matchups just on that comment. It's so hard to trust that Bengals defense against anybody. But I think if you look 15 through 17, they are like the best matchups all 3 weeks, as well are the Jaguars. But it's so hard for me to get behind those two teams. I look at a Cardinal team that has shown me over the weeks that they can produce. So I think I'm going to trust a little more on one of those defenses that I've seen give me a little more production. So give me the Cardinals.
All right, I'm going to go a little different than both of y'all. I actually picked this team up in a 16-team league, so they're still probably available in most leagues out there. And it's the Atlanta Falcons. They've been on a downswing. Kirk Cousins been, easy little, he's been an easy person to make fun of, an easy target lately. But the Falcons, man, guess what? They played the Raiders. I guess Aiden O'Donnell was going to be the quarterback. Went out with the air cast, coming back to practice. Hey, whatever, man. I don't know what's going on. I don't know that he's an improvement or worse than what they would go on to after that. But the Falcons had Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons. They got Grady Jarrett, old veteran in the middle. I think they can create some havoc and make some big turnovers. So if you're just in a standard league, maybe you get a sack, force fumble, fumble recovery, and get some points like that. And maybe they keep the Raiders, who haven't been the best offensive team at all, down in the point column as well. So in a standard league, I think I really love them. And guess what, guys? They're playing the Giants the week after that. So you can just roll them right over, not have to worry about using your fab in the playoffs, not have to worry about giving up a waiver priority on your streamer. And you can have the Atlanta Falcons for 2 weeks in a row. And guess what? They still can win the NFC South. So they're still playing for quite a bit over there. I kind of like them this week. Let's go ahead and roll into it because this next segment might take a little time. And I want to make sure, Bob, we talk about where to find your work and so forth when we're closing. So here it is, the Pizza Parlay.
Pizza!
So, Bob, before we get into the one and done, please tell us, you said you make a pretty good pie. Tell us, do you have any go-to ingredients to make this? Are you using cauliflower crust? What's going on over there, man?
No, I'm making the real deal. Double hot flour, a little bit of yeast, mix it up, make a nice Neapolitan style pie. So no, I go all in on this. And throw it in the pizza oven as well.
Nice. Yeah. Do you have a pill by any chance or no?
I do.
Yeah. The pill's it's a long story, but a pill is a powerful weapon, man. If you've never felt a pizza pill, go put one in your hands. You'll feel like you have Excalibur or something over there. But so the one and done, maybe you can explain this better than I can real quick, Bob, because this is y'all's tradition. I'm piggybacking off of it for the playoffs, but go tell everybody what it's about, please.
Well, for us, during the season, you can only use the player once all year long, right? So it gets a little tricky. You've got to have some strategy throughout the season to try to, who's going to come up big when it matters most. You have to worry a little bit about injuries or great players going to be available to me. Do I want to play the best guys early so I have them while they're still up in the locked and upright position? So it is a little tricky, and we do it on the radio with myself, Dempsey. We have a caller come in and a guest host come in, and all four of us have at it. And I'm about to light it up down the stretch because I have some really good players saved up who have some really good games.
I'm looking forward to hearing it, man. I'm always rooting for you in that. We'll see how it goes. But so for the purpose of this one, it's a little different. Okay, guys. All we have is a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, a flex, no tight end requirement. You can't start one, of course. And then an IDP. And this is all based off of Fantasy Football 7 scoring, which Bob and Evan are familiar with. So I don't have to really explain it to us. But basically, if you're watching this and you're not familiar with it, know that it's a charity league that goes to Kawasaki's disease, which my daughter experienced. And I just try to bring a balanced format for IDPs to the offensive players, essentially, but I don't get rid of the defense. A lot of the IDP crowd just hates the defense for some reason. I don't. I like getting a double down with the defensive end, so I get points for the defense and the IDP, but that's a pro move, and Evan and I talk about pro moves all the time, Bob. But with that being said, it's all playing 6 points per touchdown pass for the listeners, half point PPR, so it's not a full point PPR, no tight end incentive bonus. And that's kind of how the offense breaks down. So no timer. We don't have that awesome NFL music running in the background. I thought about running some Metallica Fuel for us, but I might get too distracted and start playing some air guitar over here. So with that in mind, Bob, why don't you start us off? who is your first pick?
I'll go ahead and take Jamar Chase. I'll chase those points against the Tennessee Titans. Again, looking at a guy with multiple 40-plus point games, including a 50-point game. And it seems like Joe Burrow has no interest in anybody but Jamar Chase, and I'll ride that down. I'll die on that hill as needed.
Yeah, all my best ball teams didn't do that great. Every team with Burrow Chase made it to the next round. Evan, who do you have for your first pick in this one and done, sir?
Yeah, I mean, give me Josh Allen.
Yeah, love it.
I try to look at some of these other quarterbacks, and I feel like a lot of the best quarterbacks this week, a lot of their ability is going to be able to run the football, right? Look at Derrick Henry. Like, I just think that teams are going to dominate. Maybe they don't need the quarterback as much. But Josh Allen's playing Detroit. I don't know if you've watched the Lions. They can score. Buffalo's going to have to score, and when they have to score, Josh Allen's willfulness. I mean, we saw him last week, right? 3 in the air, 3 on the ground. I think he's a good pick any week, but this one's indoors. It's a high-scoring affair. He's going to have to be all that he is once again, and he's shown us we can trust him. So give me Josh Allen.
Yeah, he might be the fantasy football MVP when it's said and done this year. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and take the 2 best players off the board. Give me Saquon Barkley to lead my offense, and then give me Justin Jefferson. I just think that these guys are still kind of going for the number one. There's a little competition between Jefferson and Chase. There's a little competition between Barkley and Henry. So I think these guys are playing for a little bit more than just the team goals themselves. I mean, Barkley's is pretty highlighted. He can pass Eric Dickerson, which would make him extremely pissed off. He said that, if y'all don't know who he is, go watch some old SMU tape or Los Angeles Ram take, the old Los Angeles Rams before the St. Louis Rams. And then Jefferson, we all know about him. I still stand on that he's the best wide receiver in the league. He's made both of his quarterbacks look great. He's played with positive game scripts, negative game scripts, and still be able to produce. So I like Justin Jefferson. Barkley. Evan, it is back to you, sir.
All right, then let me go with another guy from tonight. Let's go with Puka Nacua. Since he's come back, man, he's just been amazing, right? And you mentioned Matthew Stafford. We talked about the points in tonight's game. But Puka, right, from week 10, 14 targets, 9, 13, 8, 14. I mean, he's had over 100 yards in 3 of those games, 98 in the other one. Like, this is, Bob mentioned there's nobody but Jamar Chase on the field. A lot of times there's nobody but Puka on the field, although they do have a Cooper Kupp and a Kyron Williams. Puka finds a way to just get the ball thrown to him, and Matthew Stafford can sling it, and I think he's going to have to. And Puka, I think, has been wide receiver 1 over the course of the last 6 or 7 weeks. So I'm going to continue that trend. Give me double-digit targets and what he can do with the ball in his hands afterwards in a game where they got to score. So give me Puka tonight.
So you're striking the first blow, it appears, in this. Bob, you got on the turn. Who are you taking, sir?
I'll go ahead and take Lamar Jackson.
All right.
And follow him up with Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon at Houston Texans, man. Do you think they're playing the Dolphins, right? Unless I don't have that correct.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
that
do you
correct.
think they're gonna run all over the Dolphins, you think, this week?
Yeah, Mixon's been this offense, right? I mean, all due respect to CJ Stroud, he is not who we thought he was going to be, because Joe Mixon is who he has been over the course of his entire career. Like, I think it's so easy to overlook how good he is, and he's got a little bit of a rep for being injury prone. I don't think that's the case. He did miss some games this year, but I thought it was a very minimal miss for given the injury, a high ankle sprain. He came back quickly, and he's been uber productive on a weekly basis. Multiple touchdowns are well within his range of outcomes.
And it's a weird scenario over there in Houston where the offensive line's doing really great run blocking, heavily pass block. I agree with you. Great call there, Evan. Evan, you got running back, flex, and IDP. Who else would you like, sir?
Yeah, and Joe Mixon, I like that call, Bob. I'm happy that I did sneak Mixon into my top 15 on my preseason rankings, because he'd really make me look even dumber if I didn't. So at least I snuck him in there. But, yeah, he's been so good. I had him written down here, too. I think that Miami matchup is great. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. I think that this Giants team is very vulnerable to the run. On the road, Baltimore heavy favorites. I don't know if they're going to cover 14.5. That is so many points regardless of who you're playing. But I think it's a lot of King Henry on the road. And like Bob mentioned with Mixon's, multiple touchdowns, always in the range of outcomes for King Henry. Also coming off a bye, right? These guys are fresh. They're going to lean on both these guys. So I'll roll with Henry, man.
All right. I love it. I'm going to go Jordan Love as my quarterback, playing against Seattle's secondary. Seattle's defense is really coming around, but I think Green Bay is going to have Romeo Doubs this week, and it just changes their whole offense when he's there. It opens it up for everybody. Josh Jacobs is still going to pound the ball, so play action could suck some of those DBs up, and we're going to get a deep bomb from Jordan Love on the money and get a touchdown pass. Looking at my other choices, man, the flex, it's kind of hard. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and take a traditional tight end, though. And I'm going to take the traditional tight end, and I'm taking Travis Kelce. Despite everybody talking about his down year, he's still the second-ranked tight end in fantasy football sevens. He's catching it. He's just not scoring. And I think this is a week maybe we get him in the end zone, a little play action off of Pacheco, pull those linebackers up, get Kelce on a one-on-one, read with Patrick Mahomes, and I think he delivers. So I went traditional there. You guys can go any position you want. It's not super flex, can't go quarterback. And then you guys have your IDPs as well. So, Evan, who would you like?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the running back. I'm going to take Bijan.
Yeah,
I'm going to go, all in this first week on some of these studs, right? I think, like Bob mentioned, they do the whole year, so it's not that easy to do that each week. You got to get a little more strategic, but I think with the whole playing field, I'll be able to maneuver the next couple weeks. But, I mean, Bijan's been the guy, 22 carries last week, 26 the week before. Outside the Denver game, I mean, he had 20 before that, 19. We know he's involved in the passing game. And like the Giants, this Raiders defense, not good at stopping the run, not really good at much of anything outside of Morris. Spillane and Crosby are fun, but as a whole, they can't stop anybody. I think this team should be ahead. They've been relying on Bijan, and I don't see why that stops in this one. So,
all right, Bob, on the turn to close us out. You got to flex in an IDP, sir.
I'll take. Let's go with I don't like to go with guys on the same team too much. I'll go CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
And I will not resist. The urge to avoid Eric Kendricks. I'm going to go Eric Kendricks.
Yeah, tackle machine, overshown out for people that play IDP, gruesome knee injury. Kendricks is part of that defense for most of his career. So I think he goes out with the bang in what could be maybe his last season, especially with his old coach. So yep. I like the call there with Kendricks. Great call. Evan, your IDP, sir.
Yeah, I guess I'll stick with the Falcons, man, right? Give me Kaden Ellis. Give me Kaden Ellis. You brought up the Falcons defense. We've talked about this Raiders team. We don't really know what's going on at the quarterback position. Running back, I know McCormick looked good, but still, this team is not very good. Kaden Ellis has been a tackle machine, right? He's almost getting you 10 tackles when he goes out there. I think you see him take some shots at the quarterback. Maybe he gets his 4th sack of the season. Maybe gets in there, disrupts, knocks the ball out. I think he'll be around the ball a lot. I think, the way the Raiders offense will move the ball or lack of moving the ball puts him in position to give us those 10 tackles, and maybe we get another boom play out of it. So I'll go with Kaden Ellis this week.
Kaden Ellis, I'll be quick. I'm going TJ Watt because he's the best player out there. I'll count on him getting a sack or two for me in this game. So here it is. If you're playing in DFS, pay attention to these names. You got Bob has Lamar Jackson, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Eric Kendricks. Evan has Allen, Derrick Henry, Puka Nacua, Bijan Robinson, Kaden Ellis. And then I have Jordan Love, Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelce. I do think Kelce's going to have a big game. And then I have TJ Watt. Bob, real quick, man, anything you want to say about this week for anybody and advice? And please tell everybody where to find your work.
Everybody, don't outsmart yourself. You're heading into the playoffs. Remember what got you there. Matchups are going to look super appealing, maybe more so than the players involved. And be careful, kids. It's dangerous out there. Also, you can hear me Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. And that's at 10 to midnight, Saturday nights, 8 to 11 on NFL Radio and the Fantasy Channel. Sundays, 11 to 1 with Jeff Manns on the pregame show. You can hear me every morning, like 5:30 a.m. The 10-minute daily update podcast comes out from Football Guys. And you can find all my work at Football Guys. Today, the Fantasy Notebook is out, and it's completely free. You can find it on my X feed at Football Die Hard or my Blue Ski feed at Football Die Hard.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get you on the Blue Ski. I just got over there as well. Evan, any parting words for us before we get out of here?
Bob, thank you for coming on, man. I know I appreciate, getting great guests on, and you definitely fit that bill, man. And, gave a lot of good stuff today. And then everybody in the comments, man, we appreciate people that tune in, right? So I know, JC and Pete and Angie, Buy and Sell You, Fantasy Dog. We just want to shout it out, man. We appreciate the comments and the views and hanging out with us. So, other than that, I think Bob put it perfectly, man. Don't overthink it because I've been doing that most of the week. So I'm going to try to step back a little, take a deep breath, roll with what I have, confidence in. And that's all we can do, man. Trust the process. Process wins out more than not. I know sometimes it lets us down, but the right process does usually win out in the long run. That's all I got.
Go with your gut, like I say, because we're the pizza shop. We're trying to fill your gut. It is the pizza shop on the corner of fantasy and betting. We always appreciate you being here. The window pies are always ready. Reach out to Evan and I if you have any questions about fantasy or betting this week. We'll be glad to help you. Make sure you subscribe to the Sports Affiliation when you can. If you also go give us a follow on the YouTube, we would greatly appreciate it. Bob, thank you, man. You're the man. Really appreciate you being here. Like I said, just pretend Metallica fuel. Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Thank you, Iggy. Thank you, Evan.
I thought we ended.